Hi everyone, welcome to Wreaths by Marguerite here on YouTube. Today I am going to show you how to make this bright and sparkly, fun, festive, and party themed Mardi Gras wreath. Today it is a storm door wreath with a wooden sign, lots of really glittery product on it. It's a storm door / pancake wreath. What does that mean? That means that this wreath is under 4 inches deep. There you go. So that you can put this on a storm door or behind a screen door or in between a storm and a screen door without crushing it. That allows you to have something pretty without having a really smashed look versus with a regular wreath. They tend to be much bigger and much fluffier, and they just don't look good when you try to push them in between a door and a storm door. So one of my mentors came up with this idea years ago, and it has been a winner for sure, especially here in southwest Nebraska where I live. Most people want to protect their investment, and this allows them to have something pretty on their door without it looking smushed. They can be used anywhere, but that is their specific design. You can add a bow to them and put them elsewhere as well. Wouldn't recommend a bow if you're putting it behind a storm or screen door. So follow along today while I show you how to make this beautiful wreath. This one will be available in my Etsy shop after the video premieres. If you like what you see, you can also subscribe to the channel. I have all sorts of content. And oh, by the way, this is my 1-year anniversary on YouTube. Yay for me. I have done 1 full year of posts with kits as well as product for my shop. Can't believe it's been a year already, but yay for me. This one is not a kit, but I do still have one other Mardi Gras kit in my Etsy shop. The link to my Etsy shop will be in the comments, so check it out there. So let's go ahead and get this started so you can see how I got to this point, all right? All right, let's do this. Okay, so let's start with what product we have for this particular project. First, we have a sign. This is done on an MDF. This is like a sticker. And we put pipe cleaners on the back. We took 2 pipe cleaners and cut them in half after I took the rope off that was on the sign and all these stickers. Nobody wants to see that. Most of it would be hidden, but I like to make sure they're off. It just looks more professional. So I stapled these on with 1/4 inch staples. You don't want any more than 1/4 inch staples because otherwise it'll go through and come through the sign, and we don't want that, okay? So that was the first thing. That set the tone for colors and everything. This time I'm doing something a little different. I'm doing 3 different colors for the mesh. There's 12 twist ties, and so I can do... what am I doing? 4 of each color. So it'll be every third will be green, every third will be purple, every third will be gold. This is a good way to use up mesh that you have left over as well, which is basically what I did. They're all, regardless of what color they are, they're all cut in 20-inch lengths. So the long way is 20 inches. The short way is 10. So this is 10-inch mesh cut at 20 inches. You need 12 total for this project. I'll leave that out because I'll use that one first. You have a wreath base. This is a 14 1/4 wreath base. It has to have 4 rings on it. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 crossbars to work for this style of wreath. Because you put 12 pipe cleaners on it. Get it? 12 pipe cleaners, 12 pieces of mesh. It's always a tongue twister for me. Oh well. Anyway, so first thing you do is you attach 6 pipe cleaners to the outside 2 rings. So rings 1 and 2 at the crossbars. So here, 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 and here. So that's the first 6. Then the second 6 pipe cleaners go on rings 3 and 4, but in between the crossbars. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so 6 on the inside 2 rings, 6 on the outside 2 rings. That way they are staggered between each other so that they fit nicely and lay flatter, which is the goal of this style of wreath, the pancake / storm door wreath, to keep it nice and thin. When you follow all these all of this method, you will have a wreath that is under 4 inches deep, okay? So we're going to use that and the mesh first. We're going to start with the first 6 pieces. And then finally, but not least, these are the 3 ribbons that I chose for this. You'll see, looking at the sign, they've got the diamond shape there. We have the diamond shape here. So we've taken all the colors from the sign except for the white and picked out our ribbons from there. Okay, so there are 12 sets of ribbon bundles, 12 pieces of mesh, and 12 pipe cleaners. That helps you remember. And the 12 pieces of ribbon are also cut at 12 inches in length. A lot of 12s. It makes it easier to remember. I've chosen to go with 3 ribbons. You can do 2, but I tend to go to the 3. That's just how I am. I like my mesh to have more coverage. If you're not as concerned about covering your mesh, you can do less, and you can do all of the 1.5 inch ribbons. This is a 1.5 inch ribbon, and these are both 2.5 inch ribbons. I would advise, if you're just doing 2 and you want good coverage, you stick with 2. You can do 3 of the 2.5 inch ribbons, or you can do 2 and 1 1.5 like I'm doing here, or 1 2.5 and 2 1.5. Just entirely up to you what you want to do. This is my favorite combination, is 2 2.5s and a 1.5. And I always put the 1.5 in the center. Not always, usually. It's in the center like it is on this sample here. I think I may need to use the sample, I can't remember. So they're all cut. I've done a V shape at the top. Which one's darker? Top and bottom of each ribbon tail by folding the ribbon in half. And I'm cutting from the new fold to the wire upwards. So upwards at about a 45-degree angle. So after I get all 36 pieces cut, since this is 3 ribbons, 12 each, that's 36. Sometimes I'm good at math. I make my bundles so they're ready to go, like they are today, so you don't have to watch the boring part with me. Not sure why I have, okay. This must be spare parts. That's possible. It's happened. Okay. Excuse me. So, I'll use the yellow clip. We are using, let me move this out of the way a little more. I think I want to bring the mesh over on this side, because I work to my right a little bit. I'm left-handed. I don't know if that's why, but that's my story and I'm sticking to it. So the first thing I do with the ring before I start putting my mesh in is on the outside 6 pipe cleaners, I turn the wreath around and I place the pipe cleaners horizontal to me. And I say that you should do it turning it around in front of you. There's less reaching. You don't, I mean, yeah, you can come over here and straighten them all out and do all that. But the less you have to reach, you know, if you have issues with arthritis and stuff like that, bring it to you. Just makes it easier. I don't have arthritis yet. But bring it to you. Whenever you're working in a pipe cleaner, bring it to you so that it's in front of you. Either directly in front of you like this or at an angle one way or the other. I tend to angle it a little to the right. I don't know if that's because I'm left-handed, but that's my comfortable position. So then we're going to start putting the mesh in. We're going to put them in every other, because then that way we go back with the other. After we do the first 3, we bring back the second 3. It lays on top of the first 3 and holds it down a little bit, kind of connects to it, because let me tell you, this stuff is like Velcro. It will stick to anything. And at that point, I want to remind you, you really should wear not good clothes, and you should wear short sleeves if possible. If you have long sleeves on, make sure you roll them up above the elbow so you're not catching in anything, because if it can, it will. Okay? So remember I said these were 20 inches in length and 10 inches wide, so 10 inches this way. They make mesh in 10 up to 12 inches wide, and then they make it, I think it's 21. I have 21. That's how we started out, but you can't use it on this wreath. I'm telling you right now, you cannot. It just doesn't work. It's too big. So 10 inches by 20, and we always, in this method, have the curl side down. So see how it curls up like this? We always have the curl side down, and I tend to use the table to uncurl it. And then I usually stick something on it to hold it down so it doesn't curl back up. You'll find that in a roll of mesh, the further into the roll the piece of mesh is from, the more curly it's going to be. It's not a big deal, but it's going to fight you. So I always recommend putting something there. Usually I use my phone when I'm off camera. So I'm going to put that there for now because the first step, it's a lot easier with a mesh with a design in it because there's usually a line close enough to the center that you can follow as you ruffle. But since we're using solid colored mesh today, you can do two things. You can either fold it in half, find a center with your finger and put a clip on there, then you turn it around, and that tends to hold it down, but these are from the center of the roll of mesh up here. These are from the center of the roll of mesh. I didn't make this big enough. There we go. So they're a lot curlier. These three. They're out of camera right now. Let me bring it back in just a touch to show you. They're pretty small. Okay. So I'm going to leave that there. So you can do the clip. Put it at the end there. Let me show you. There we go. And then on this end, you can do the same thing, which is what I usually do now that I've figured this easier way out. If not, you just take a ruler or your cutting mat. You should have a cutting mat under your workspace because you're going to need it to cut the mesh anyway, so you don't destroy the tabletop. So you can take a ruler or the cutting mat to find your center, which would be 5 inches. But like I said, at this point I figured out just the easiest way to do it, and with less tools, is to just fold it directly in half this way and find the spot where the center is with your finger. And then you're going to start ruffling this to that clip on the other end, okay? Let me do it at an angle so you can see it all. I like to work at an angle anyway. And then you take your thumbs on the outside of the mesh and use all of the rest of your fingers and gather up the center where you marked it with your fingers, ruffling it small all the way up. You can either ruffle towards the clip or pull it down like I did so you're not reaching out so far. Although it's a little bit of good exercise if you're moving back and forth, not sitting still. And then you get to the end and you take your index finger and thumb and hold it loosely in the center. And then you're going to position your mesh. You want to try to get as close to a circle as you can, but you want to make sure the cut edges match up evenly out here. If this piece right here was way back here, that wouldn't work. You'd need to loosen it up a little bit so it reached. I ruffled it pretty well that time. So both sides, okay, no, I lied. This side is way off, so I'm going to pull the opposite side. So this is out further, this is in closer to my fingers. So the side that's closest to my fingers, I'm going to grab right by my fingers and never at the outside edge. And I'm going to bring it out so that it's even with this one. Okay, so now it's even. The reason I say do not grab the mesh from the outside edges is because if you tug on it at all, these little strings and bits and pieces of tinsel will change their shape. Right now they're nice and straight, but if you pull from the outer edge, they're going to start curving. It's not the end of the world, but you know, we want to keep the uniform pattern, okay? So now I'm going to bring the base over to me, and like I said, the pipe cleaners are horizontal, so the mesh is going to go in that pipe cleaner vertically, and using your fingers, you're going to hold it in place while you take the pipe cleaner up and over the center where you were holding it to keep it nice and even on each side of the pipe cleaners, and tighten the pipe cleaner as tight as you can without breaking it. They take a lot. They're pretty sturdy. And tighten it tight and low, twist it tight and low 2 to 3 times. Never more than that. The whole point of this design is to keep it short. That's why you're twisting the pipe cleaners tight and low. Then what you're doing is you're taking that outside cut edge over the inside cut edge on one side, and you're taking the outside cut edge over the inside edge on the other side. Now, this is not completely perfect as far as I'm concerned. It's kind of pointy on this side, so if I need to adjust it once it gets into the pipe cleaner, I'm going to grab at the base of the pipe cleaner, never on the outside, in the areas that are not perfectly rounded. Keeping in mind, the most important part of your poof to look perfectly circular is on the outside, because that's really the only part that's going to be seen, okay? So I'm still looking at it. That didn't move too much. Let me do that one a little bit up here. This one's really far in, so I'm going to bring that out. That's probably going to be the key to getting this back to a circle. I'm going to pull it all up in my hand so I can get a better grip. Alright, now we need to go back and adjust on the other side. Sometimes it's hard to tell where you need to pull. I am not perfect. And don't expect yourself to be either. There's no such thing. Do it till you're happy. And then if you're still not sure if it looks round, this is way longer on this side. I need to come back in a little bit more. Take a picture of the poof from an overhead shot with your phone and take a look at it. You'll be able to see where you need to adjust it much better than with a naked eye. Standing up helps. A lot of people create standing up. I tend to be up and down, more down than up. Okay, so that one's good. Now I'm going a little bit more there. Okay, now I'm going to try to turn it. I say try because it doesn't always stay. Turn the inside edges under. That helps hold it in place. Remember, I said I'm skipping it. So the next one will be whichever other color I choose to go third. So I think I'm going to do it green, gold, purple. So that means this one would be gold, so we're skipping that for now. And we're going right to the purple. These are all what is called a deluxe wide foil mesh. It has a lot of coverage. You definitely won't see the frame when this is done because of the design. Okay, so we've got another piece. Got it long ways in front of us. Curl side down. We're going to fold one end down. Clip it at the center. You'll find I do a couple different techniques. I tend to do that so that it doesn't seem as monotonous. And then I stretch it out, fold it in half again, and then I'm going to ruffle it into my thumbs. The important part I like to point out about having that clip on the top, it really helps when you're ruffling solid colored mesh because it gives you a tracking point to where you're going to end up, so that you can keep as close to the center when you're ruffling. So again, I'm putting it in my thumb and forefinger, grabbing it towards my hand to adjust it, never at the outer edge. I'm grabbing it. It looks like I'm grabbing it at the outer edge, but I'm not putting any pressure on it till I get down to just about my hand. To keep it round. Okay, those are good, those are good. So we're going to go into, I'm going to mix it up and turn it this way. Whatever you're comfortable with, that's where I go. I'm just giving you guiding ideas. It's up to you exactly how you proceed. You'll probably try several before you find what works best for you. So I twisted that tight and low, keeping it nice and thin. I'm taking that outside edge over the inside edge. Outside edge over the inside edge. Now, I don't think I said it there, but the reason I do it that way, with the outside edge over the inside cut edge, is so that none of the cut edges of the mesh are exposed on the outside. That tends to keep it from fraying as much, because mesh frays, it's harder to see on this because they're solid colors and everything's the same. But the cut edges tend to fray a little bit. There's no avoiding it 100%. There are a lot of people that use a wood burning tool with a piece of glass under it to cut their mesh. That kind of melts the edges a little bit. But even that's not perfect. It helps a lot if you want to take the time, but I would recommend doing it in a well-ventilated room or outside. When I do that, when I pre-cut the mesh and I am doing the wood burning tool to cut it, I go outside, put a table in the edge of the garage, and just cut out there in batches. So there's that. That one came out a little better. I always find the first one or two when I'm making a wreath, the first wreath of the day at least, I tend to not get the perfect result I want right off the bat. And that's okay. You have options. Alright, I should have just left it alone, shouldn't I? I think it was okay the way it was, because I got a point again. Apparently today's the day of the point. It doesn't matter so much in here because no one's going to see that. Absolutely no one will see that. Okay, so the next one we're skipping, and then we're going to this one. So that's green, gold, purple, green, gold. So we get to use the gold now. All of these are that deluxe wide foil mesh. Curl side down on the table. Fold it in half. How many of you celebrate Mardi Gras? Let me know in the comments. I love going to New Orleans. I've been twice. I'd love to go again. Fold this side. Gather it with your fingers. I've never been for Mardi Gras. I don't know that I'd want to be around that many people now that I've moved to a small town. I don't enjoy being in large crowds anymore. Much simpler life in southwest Nebraska. Coming from a Cali girl. Yes. Alright, so I've ruffled it. I'm holding it with my thumb and my forefinger. I'm adjusting the mesh so that it's even. That looks really big on that side, so I'll take this hand and hold it that way. No. This might be a 1/2 inch longer. Yeah, this is closer to 11-inch mesh. That's why it looked so much bigger. It wasn't my imagination. So now I'm going to bring this back over. And I'm going to put it in vertically into the horizontal pipe cleaner. And that brings up an important point. Let me see. Tight and low 2 to 3 times with the pipe cleaner. Since this is longer mesh, I'm going to want to make sure, so that it looks even with the green and the purple at the end, that I have a little bit more of the mesh on this side of the pipe cleaner. But I'll do that after I do the outside cut edge over the inside cut edge and the outside cut edge over the inside cut edge, okay? So that doesn't meet up. So that, no it does. But I need to get a little bit more on the inside so that it doesn't have points. This is supposed to be a round wreath, not jagged. Okay, so that's important to remember. Once you get all the mesh in on this layer, again, you can take a picture of it from overhead or just look at it from overhead to see if everything looks even, okay? So now we're going to go back and do the next 3. That one's done. I'll make sure that's still spread out, and we're going to do purple next because it's green, purple, gold. The way it sits there. I'm going to roll it out on the table, curl side down. I use the table edge, like I said, to unroll it most of the time. Clip it there. And then I'm going to go to the other end, fold it in half, ruffle it into my thumbs. If it starts to give you difficulties, I tend to go to one-hand ruffling. I'll hold it up here to keep it flatter. That helps too, because nothing is more annoying than the mesh rolling up and getting in the way of itself. So I find that works really well. So you're going to get several techniques in each thing I do, okay? This one, like I said, is for my Etsy shop and craft shows. I'm hosting my first ever craft show this coming Saturday. So by the time you see this, it will be over and I will be exhausted. But I'm excited. It's for a bunch of local vendors. We don't get much in the winter because of the weather. Here in Nebraska, we get a lot of sub-zero temperatures, and it's hard to go distances without worrying about whether it's safe or you're going to get stuck there for the night. So I chose 15 vendors that were local with all different kinds of products so that we can get a little of everything for Valentine's Day. But I'm taking the Mardi Gras too because it's not that far after Valentine's Day that we'll be celebrating Mardi Gras for those that celebrate. And that gives you a couple weeks before St. Patrick's Day too. Okay, so that means here we're going to put the gold back in there. See how it's holding on to itself? Since it's like Velcro, it's a good thing for the mesh. Once it all gets in, it helps hold it in place. The wind isn't going to move that if it were in the wind, because this stuff is like Velcro. I probably say it too much, but I can't reiterate it more. Fold it in half to find the center, clip it there. And the nice thing about the clip, it's just one more household item you have that you don't have to buy to assemble a wreath. I mean, everybody has scissors. Just make sure that your scissors are just for cutting ribbon. Everybody has wire cuts, or at least not wire cuts, has a toolkit where you have wire cutters. You know, so you just have to have needle nose. If you don't have a little dowel like this, use a pen or a pencil. So you're really not investing much in equipment for making wreaths to start out with. You need a cutting mat for sure. You need a rotary cutter. It's often used for quilts. This is what you cut the mesh with. You can use scissors, but this is easier. So those are the basic tools you have to have. Fold it in half. I'm going to go back to the one hand since it's easier for me. I'll do it both ways throughout the whole project, so you see it both ways several times. And I apologize in advance. Well, not really in advance. I fling things when I'm done with them, unless they're delicate. So I apologize now. Like, dang, Marguerite, why are you throwing everything? I'm not throwing it. Okay, so we're coming over here again. Pardon. And we're taking that mesh vertical in the pipe cleaner and remembering to keep it a little shorter on the outside because this was 1 inch longer mesh. Tight and low with that pipe cleaner 2 to 3 times. The other thing you should do is put the pipe cleaners up in the air. I'm going to turn that light off because it's decided to die. We'll still be able to see. Let's get that thing charged again. I couldn't find any of my Mardi Gras beads, so I put on my St. Patrick's Day beads. Shh, don't tell anybody. I had to have beads for making a Mardi Gras wreath, right? I have my silly side too. So again, we're going to take that outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. Outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. And I'm going to, these are pretty deep gathers. That means that I didn't gather as tightly as I probably should. You'll get bigger waves in your gathers when you don't gather it as much. Alright, piece of fray came off all by itself. I didn't have to cut it off. It's really hard to see in these meshes because they're so bright and shiny with all that tinsel in there. Okay, bring that up there. We have one more on the bottom layer, and then we get to start playing with the ribbon. Okay, so use the table, clip it in the center after I've folded it in half, so that was my center. Lay it on the table. Do the same thing on the opposite end. See, it's coming back to me. I'm not ready for you. Okay. Alright. We're going to ruffle it with the thumbs on the outside and the rest of the fingers gathering it up. I just can't do the exact same process the exact same way every time. I need to mix it up. That's just me. Loosely, I'm holding it in the thumb and forefinger again, and I'm going to adjust it. That's good. And that's good. And then we're going to bring it over here, put it vertically in this pipe cleaner, and that'll be the last piece of mesh for the bottom layer. Tight and low with the pipe cleaner. Alright. pipe cleaners up and out of the way so you can see what I'm doing better. Outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. This one ruffled up pretty good. So uncurl that. Bring it down. Just trying to hit you right on the gold. Bring the outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. Okay? Curl it under if it'll let you. And there you go. There's the first layer of mesh. I love these colors. This one looks like it's out just a little too far still. So I'm going to bring it in a touch. Holding the pipe cleaners while I'm doing it. Because if you don't, sometimes the pipe cleaner will untwist and everything will fly out. Still needs to be a little more on this side, doesn't it? Yeah. Get back under there. Let me look at it now. That's this one. I think we're good. Yeah, I'm going to take that in a little bit more. Oh, it just moved. That's all. Attitude with this mesh, I tell you. Okay. Work with me, mesh. Work with me. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go back with the same technique, putting ribbon tails on. We're going to put them in every other poof, and then go back and do the other three, okay? So the reason why I tell you to fold them in half, put a nice crease in each piece, is that way you easily find your center for ruffling. You're ruffling it just like you did the mesh, up the center. This time you're going to hold it in your thumb and forefinger just like you did the mesh, but you're going to take your other hand and bring the tail ends out towards the edge of the table towards you so that you get this V. This helps it stay in position once you get it in the mesh. It's still going to try to creep out this way, but this minimizes it. Doesn't take it away completely, but it minimizes it. So you're going to have your wreath in front of you. Now with the mesh, you have your pipe cleaners horizontal to you. When you're putting the ribbon in, you have the pipe cleaners vertical to you because the ribbon's going in horizontal. Okay, so you're putting that in, twisting it 2 or 3 times, and on this layer only, you're going to now twist it up. It's sure it's hard to see. Let me see if I can bring it in really close for you to see. You're going to twist it up. I'm going to put something light colored behind it. What do I have? That helps. See how I twisted it up to here? You want about a 1-inch stub. And then you take your wire cutters, which I was using earlier as a weight, and cut the pipe cleaner off above where you twisted it. Throw the excess in the trash. And then you're going to fold your pipe cleaner down towards the center of the wreath and into the mesh. No one will ever see that because all of the inside of this layer will be hidden. So now what you're going to do is you're going to position your ribbon where you want it to sit, facing the outside edge of the wreath. So what I always try to do is I lift the top 1 or 2 ribbons out of the way so that I can position the 3rd ribbon. Then I lift the top one out of the way, and then I position the 2nd one. And as I'm positioning them, I'm popping out these little bubbles that are created from gathering it. So there's very little of them. And then I position the 3rd. Now, you can do this on both layers as well, but on the bottom layer, I always choose to put, for example, in this wreath, I'm putting the harlequin here, then the gold here, and then the stripe here. And if you notice, I'm never handling the ribbon from the tips. It can fray and will as well if you're handling it from there. Not as easily as mesh, but definitely it can happen. So I'm turning the wreath again, making it do the work for me. And this time I'm still lifting the top 2 ribbons up and out of the way, but I'm bringing the stripe down here so it's next to the harlequin on the other side, so it's opposite. And I'm going to do that here. When you lift it up, when you lift the ribbon up like that, it helps you get more control of the ribbon for placement and to get those little bubbles out. So on the bottom layer, I'm just pulling them straight out. We don't need to curve them, just make sure that they're not wrinkled. Because and I also like to hold it down here. See, I'm not holding it from the very edge of the ribbon. And then I can smooth it out. It's gonna creep up underneath. There's no avoiding it. I press it down too, like this a little. It helps keep the wreath nice and thin. So again, we're skipping one. We're putting the pipe cleaner on the next one vertical. And now we're going in with another bundle of ribbon. Thumb and forefinger, hold the tails down to the edge of the table and place it horizontally into the pipe cleaner. Tighten low 2 to 3 times. And then up. It's usually your 6 to 8 twists upwards to get a 1-inch stub of twist. And then cut what's not twisted off and throw that away. Tuck the pipe cleaner down into the wreath face, into the mesh towards the center of the wreath, and then go ahead and start separating your ribbon into position. When you're dealing with glitter, it's definitely thicker. Glitter ribbon, this one is very thick. It's very chunky, as they call it. It's a chunky glitter. Where this has, it's a softer glitter that doesn't come off. The glitter can come off a little. So I'm getting those bubbles out. Then I'm going to the second side. Notice I turned the wreath itself. I'm going to place this over here. This ribbon has a really good wire in it, but it's not a stiff ribbon. So it's going to be challenging sometimes when you're trying to get it in position and stay there. But that's not to say it's not going to. Or this is super thick, just like the glitter ribbon. So these are all in their place. Gold is already trying to hide on this one, but that's okay. Don't fuss with it too much until you get it completely done. Then you can go back and pull everything out to the edges better. I'm going to get a sip of water. And then I'm going to bring it back out so you have a good view of the whole thing. I'm taking pipe cleaner horizontal. Nope, vertical. I'm ruffling the ribbon. Thumb and forefinger, pull towards the edge of the table. I mean, you can mess with the ribbon before you even put it in to try to get some of the bubbles out from the gathering. I tend to try to do it once I get it in most of the time. Put it in there horizontally, twist that pipe cleaner tight and low 2 to 3 times, and then twist up, making a 1-inch twist, cut the excess pipe cleaner off. So, and then see, it's not staying V-shaped at all, so I'm just going to help it along a little bit. Okay, and bring these up and out of the way. Bring that up there. Bring that up there. Bring that down there. Pretty much this is right where it naturally lays, so you don't have to fuss with that top ribbon as much. And then we're going to do the same thing. This is such a bright, fun. It's got a very rich look to it. Mardi Gras does, doesn't it? Well, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And now we're going to go back and do the other 3 that are in between them. So these 3 bundles of ribbon will lay on top of the ribbons on their sides. Open, open. There you go. Ruffle it. You can ruffle it from the top down or the bottom up. Again, I changed mine up a little so I don't get bored. 3. Up and make an inch stub. These are glittered tinsel pipe cleaners, so they're a little bit thinner than your traditional. Just to give you an idea too. They are thinner. I'll do it later because they'll never go in the way I want them to. Once I pull it all out. Okay, so I'm going to pull these out. and away from the bottom one. So I can place it up there. Do the same thing with the top two. Place it in position. I tend to pull things off the table a little bit. It's me. I just find it's easier. Plus I have a hard time getting my chair all the way to the table. I don't know if the floor in this room is got a dip or something in it, but I can never get it to stay up close to the table. And I don't feel that I'm pushing on the chair, so I don't know. I'm due for a new chair anyway, and this one's really not that comfortable. Okay. Had it 7 years, 18, 19, 20. So 6 years for sure, almost 7. All right. I can count with my fingers. All right, now here's another one. I do sell kits if this is the first video you're watching. This one is not. This one is just to fill my shop with product in my Etsy shop, which is Wreaths by Marguerite. You can check out all my goodies there. The kits are available there too. And then I do tutorials for every wreath I make a kit for. So right now, today's wreath is my 1-year anniversary on YouTube. So this means that this is my 53rd wreath, and I've done some bow tutorials as well. So I try to throw one of those in every now and then, definitely around Christmas. Oh, I forgot to finish. I'm talking too much. So that you can learn how to make bows. You can always add a bow to this if you're not putting it behind a storm door. Absolutely. And the tutorials I have for bows teach you several different styles of bows. Don't pass up the tutorial on the tree topper bow, because it's not just a tree topper bow. It's just that's the style that it's called. But it can be for the wreaths and anything else you want it to be. A mantle, a lamp post, a mailbox. So don't be deterred by the title of that video. Take a look at it if you haven't already. There's a lot of content. And I'm more than willing to answer any questions too if you reach out to me. So there's that one all done. This is the final one for this layer. And like I said, this is the only layer you're cutting the tinsel for sure. Don't cut not the tinsel, the pipe cleaners. They're called pipe cleaners. Or chenille stems, depending on who you talk to. This is chenille, these are tinsel. So that's why I was getting confused. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. So I gathered it in the center. I'm making my inverted V, which is an upside down V, facing the outside of the table. I'm putting it in the pipe cleaners, which were vertical, and I'm putting the ribbon in horizontal, tight and low 2 to 3 times, and then twist up till you get an inch of twist, and cut off the excess. Tuck your pipe cleaner into your mesh. Now, sometimes I wait till the end to tuck my pipe cleaner into the mesh. You'll see that with a lot of other people. Again, with me, that's just me trying to mix things up so it's not monotonous. You do what is most comfortable with you, but if you do it along the way like I'm doing today, you're not going to forget to do it. Okay, there's that. Oh, there's some loose strings on this golden mesh, or frays as they're called. Alright, I'm going to lift the top two once again to separate from the bottom ribbon, place it, and I virtually always run my fingers along the edge when I'm placing it. And on the bottom layer, you don't necessarily want to curl the mesh. You want it to come straight out because you want to see as much of this ribbon on the outside edge as possible, because the inside of it is going to be covered by the next layer of mesh, which comes next, okay? So now that the bottom layer is finished, we're going to go back to placing the mesh for the second layer in. And to do that, remember we had 6 more pipe cleaners. You bring the pipe cleaners up in between each piece of mesh, And then when I do that, I immediately spread it out so it's in position to put the mesh in. You can see them from the back if you can't see them from the front. If you're missing them, you better have 6 or you don't have enough. Bring it up. Separate it out. Bring it up. In between the 2 pieces of mesh. Not through the mesh, in between the pieces of mesh. I've not had anybody try to put it through the mesh of a class. But, yeah, you never know. I have a lot of great students in the area that come to classes. They're not as big as most because we are a very small community. Where I live, it's only 6,000 people. Our county's got 9,000. And I go to do classes up to an hour, hour and a half away from here because that's normal for a drive. We don't have traffic, so it's not like we're sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic. So it's not so bad compared to when I was growing up in California. Nothing wrong with California, peeps. Just, I don't miss the traffic and that many people. When I was younger, I was all about it. Going to Los Angeles, to the clubs. I could tell you stories, but I won't. We'll leave it there, okay? So make sure you have all 6 out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And get started again. It doesn't really matter where you start. I would just try not to have the same color over the same color. I'm going to come over... I think I'll do purple here and start that way. That way purple's over this, then green's over this, then gold's over this. Yeah, that works. Then that way you don't have too much purple in one place, too much gold in one place, etc., etc. I think you get what I mean, right? And get another piece. That one's super curly. Use the table to uncurl it because it's always curl side down. Spread it out. This is pretty curly, so I'm going to stick that there. Fold it in half. Got my finger. I already had my finger there because I've been doing this a while. I think I've made around 2,000 wreaths so far, so I can pretty much eye it at this point. I'm not always right. Ruffle, 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 ruffle. I can get my tool out. Finish her up. Thumb and forefinger. Match up your edges. Put it in the pipe cleaner. So it's vertical in the pipe cleaner and the pipe cleaner is horizontal to the mesh. Tight and low, twist tight a couple times. 3. Get it up out of the way. Then you're going to take that outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. Outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. Now this is the top layer, so you're going to see it a little bit more. You want to make sure this outside edge is nice and circular as perfectly as you can get it. Perfectly as it'll let you get it too, right? Let's see. Alright, that looks good. See? And see, now it's in between the gold and the green. Okay? So we're going to skip this one again. So this will be green, so we're going with gold here. Again, I'm remembering to turn the wreath as I go, so I'm not contorting my body. I'm going to fold it in half, curl side down, find my center. Come down to this end, ruffle. Again, remembering that one side needs to be a little bit bigger than the other because this is 1 inch. 1 inches? Marguerite. 1 inch longer, wider. I'm going to go right there. See how it looks. Tight and low, 1, 2, 3. Put it in the air. That looks to be the right distance. That definitely looks longer on that side, the inside, which we want. Speaking of one side being longer than the other, if you want your wreath to be wider this way than it is, what you can do is when you ruffle, let me do the green next. Yep, and that's the right one. Think about it sometimes, and that's completely normal. So I'm going to intentionally start off. Let me put that in there. And I'm not going to place my clip in the center. I'm going to put it to one side. This side over here is the side of the ruffle that would go to the outside of the wreath. That will give you a couple more inches on the width of your wreath. As it stands, this one's going to be just under 23 inches across. That would make it more between 25 and 26. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going back to the center because we didn't do that on this, so why start now, right? I'll really be confused. Pull that up. I try to be as clear as possible. If you have any questions, like I said, put them in the comments and I'll answer them the best I can. I'm very visual. I'm better at visual than verbal. I won't lie. Just like I write better than I speak, by far. I don't know if that's normal. Let me know what you think. Are most people more verbal and less written? I don't know. I'm babbling. Okay. Get that in there again. I always pull it apart with the other hand if you hadn't noticed a little bit. But knowing that it needs to sit in the pipe cleaner where my hand is that I was holding the poof that in, 2, 3, up. Okay. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. If you see me randomly doing that, means I'm moving the pipe cleaners. It's hard to tell that I'm doing that because of the colors being so monochromatic between the pipe cleaner and the mesh, especially with the green. Okay, that works. So now we're going to go back and put the final 3 in. This is the last 11-inch gold. So I'm going to come over to the side just a touch. That will help me. So I'm going to go, see, Velcro, let go. This one's been relatively good with not catching on anything. That's why it's so important to keep your workspace as clear as you can, so that you have, one, you have enough space to assemble your products or your creations, and second of all, so not everything's attaching to your wreath as you turn it. That's frustrating. So there we go. I'm going to turn it this way this time. Now that all this mesh is in there, the pipe cleaners don't like to stay where they need to be. So you may have to have a third hand or get really adept like me. And I know you can. Okay, so that's going there. It's thick mesh. That's why it's so pretty. 2 or 3 times. Not that the other meshes aren't pretty, but there's that one. I'm going to put that bin. I'm going to show you trim that fray off. Does that look right? I'm going to bring it in just a touch more. See how a lot of the ribbons creeped up in? Completely normal. So this will be the green. Curl side down. Find my center. I just love the colors of Mardi Gras. They look like a party. That one's off. There we go. Okay, put it in there. These are horizontal. Mesh goes in vertical. Mesh goes in vertical. Ribbon goes in horizontal. So mesh, the pipe cleaners are horizontal. Ribbon, the pipe cleaners are vertical. Hopefully that's not too confusing. One way is opposite from the other. That helps you too. Outside cut edge, over inside cut edge. What do we got going on over here? Somehow I didn't lay it into the pipe cleaner very well on this side. Now it's connecting itself to the ribbon. Velcro, I tell you. All right. Last but not least, our final purple one. That wasn't too hard, right? And breaking it down into the steps like I show you really makes it so much less intimidating. Fold it in half on both ends to find your center. See that? I spoke too soon, didn't I, on the Velcro effect. Ruffle it up with your thumbs on the outside. Or if you're using one thumb on the outside, holding this down. Holding it in your thumb and forefinger. Never grabbing the edge. I like this side better. No, I like this side better. Part of why I turn the wreath back and forth, it depends on which side I like better as far as the ruffle. I want to make sure that the side that I like that's ruffled more perfectly ends up there on the outside. Okay. All right, so there is the second layer of mesh. Now you have a decision to make. Do you want to put the rest of your ribbon bundles on first and then the sign on top of the ribbon? Or do you want to put the sign on and then put the ribbon on the top? My favorite way to do it is to put the sign in first and then the ribbon on top so that it frames the sign. So I'm going to stand up now. Take my glasses off. And I'm going to turn the wreath so that I have one of the 6 pipe cleaners at 12 o'clock and one of them at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock. That way I know where my top center and bottom center are so that I can center the sign in the wreath. And then I take the other 4 and I pull them to the outside, the pipe cleaners to the outside of the wreath. Because since this is a license plate shaped sign, I'm going to position it between the 4 pipe cleaners from the mesh right here. Just making sure I center my sign in the middle. So I'm using the word happy to find my center because it's centered. So that means this P is my center. All right, now I'm going to sit back down. This doesn't roll very well anymore either. Okay, this chair, that is. I got a little routine I gotta do. Alright, when you're attaching the pipe cleaners to your, not your pipe cleaners, yeah, when attaching your pipe cleaners to the wire base to hold your sign in place, I use these 6-inch plastic embroidery needles. They have a big opening here, and they're at least 6 inches long. They make them longer. There's also metal ones. I had metal first, but I kept impaling myself, which was, at least my fingers, which was no fun. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and put it through the mesh all the way down to the back of the wreath. So I'm going to lift it up. And I put it in just inside of the pipe cleaner so that from the mesh, so that none of these pipe cleaners on the sign are visible from the outside of the wreath once it's complete. Hiding the mechanics, that's what we call it. We're going to take that through everything and pull it out at the back of the wreath and pull it off of the needle. Okay, so when we attach a sign, we bring the pipe cleaners through in an X formation. So I did this one, so then I want to do this one. Then I can do either this one or this one. Doing it that way and attaching it that way eliminates the chances of your wreath sign being cockeyed in the base. This helps tremendously, okay? So I'm going to turn it around to me instead of contorting my body. I'm going to put it in just inside the pipe cleaners from the mesh. Put it through to the back. Put the tip of the pipe cleaner through and hold it so it doesn't come off of the needle. You can do it without a needle, but it gets frustrating at times. This takes a lot of the frustration level out, for sure. That one feels like it folded. Yeah, it did. Okay. So now I'm going to go over here, do this one, and then come back and do that last one, and then turn it over to tighten everything in. Needle on the inside of the pipe cleaner from the mesh. Fold it over. It helps to lift it off the table a little bit when you're doing this process. And now the last but not least is this one. No, I did that one. It's this one. Right inside of the pipe cleaners from the mesh. Lift it up a little. Pull it through. Then you're going to take a look at it again to make sure it looks centered. Got my P in the right place. And I'm going to put this back on top of the sign to protect it because I'm going to hold it and flip it over. That way if there's any residue, glitters and stuff on the table, it won't scratch the sign. And I'm going to come in a little so I can show you the pipe cleaner. I try to wrap it around the frame where there's another pipe cleaner so that it's less visible. If I'd have used my head, I would have used tinsel pipe cleaners on the sign so it would match this. It would blend it even better. And then I go across. I'm pressing down a little bit on the wreath. You don't want the sign buried in it because it just doesn't look right. But you wanted it settled in enough so that it doesn't wiggle around once it's in there. Okay, you can always check it as you go by turning it over and looking at it. And when I'm done with the pipe cleaner on each of them, I turn the sharp point of the pipe cleaner down into the wreath so that if this is going on a glass door, or any door for that matter, you don't see it and it's not going to scratch anything. Okay, last but not least, and I just cut some free off of one of the pieces of mesh. Okay. Always keep as much of the pipe cleaner as you feel will be necessary for putting the sign on. If you have a ton of extra pipe cleaner, you can always cut the tip of it off. This one is curled under. Okay, so now we're going to turn it over. We don't need that now. I'll show you where we're at. And now we get to do the final 6 bundles of ribbon. Okay. I almost always do the ribbon tails at 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock last, because I like the way it sits on top of the ribbon besides it. Again, it's just a visual thing. You can do it any way you want. You can just go around and be done. That's up to you. I usually do this one, then this one, then this one, and then I go back and do these 2. That way they all lay nicely in a pattern that just adds to the look. Okay, so we're going to ruffle this ribbon again, just like we did on the top, but we're not going to make an inverted V. You can do that if you want on the top layer. You'll see a little bit more of the mesh that way. But I prefer to spread it out like a starburst. So I'm putting it in the pipe cleaner, and it's going to be twisted tight and low 2 to 3 times. And then you have a choice you can make. I'm going to come back in again. Okay. You can do what you did on the bottom layer by twisting it up and making at least a 1-inch stub, if not 2, and then cutting the excess off, and then tucking it under your ribbon, and just have a little bump, just a little stub of pipe cleaner showing there. Or you can add cute little embellishments. They make lots of different buttons with the shank on the back. It's like a little loop that you could put on your pipe cleaners. If you look in my shop, you can see that a few places. And if you watch my sunflower storm door wreath, my sunflower welcome storm door wreath tutorial, you'll see me put some sunflowers on there too. But I prefer to do the little curly cues. So what I do is that's where this dowel comes in. You can use a pen or a pencil. You don't want it very thick, but you don't want it too thin. Because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to twist one pipe cleaner this direction away from me, and then this one's going to be twisted towards me. And you can pull them out so you can see a little curly cue, which I think I might do today. I might not. We'll see what we end up with. And then you separate your ribbon. Now on the top layer, I don't position the ribbon the same way as the bottom. Remember, on the bottom, I did it harlequin on one side here and harlequin on the other side here. Well, on the top layer, I'm going to do every other with the harlequin closest to the sign and every other with the stripe closest to the sign. And here we go. So lift these 2 up and out of the way, separate them. This time I'm going to put a little curl in it, because even if you put a little curl in it, it'll fit behind the storm door. Lift these up and separate them. Get that bubble out of the space down here. Curl it like that. You can also use this, after you get the bubble, to curl it a little. That curled it a lot. Woo. Look at that. I'm not doing it that fluffy today. And on the other side, since I'm mixing it up from the bottom, this will come down here as well. So let me lift and separate. Position that here. In this particular wreath, I do want more of my mesh covered, so I want to spread them out in a pattern that gives more coverage. Usually 2 are faced to the outside of the wreath, 2 basically straight onto the side, and then 2 inside, 2 up here. Okay. And then we'll come back at the end and pull the ribbon out of the bottom layer so you can see the tips of it. Okay, so I did that one. That means this one's next. Ruffle. Put it into the pipe cleaner horizontal to you. Tighten low 2 or 3 times. I'm going to curl mine again. If you end up with 2 different pipe cleaners, just clip the other one so that they match. I tend to do that with all of them. But let's see, so this one's going to curl towards the center, towards the sign. And this is going to curl outwards towards me. They sit prettier when you do it that way. I'm not going to pull it out until I've... So now, since I had this on the inside, it's going to be on the outside on this one. See how it wrinkles a little bit more? Because it's thin compared to these. Sorry, my chair is squeaking. Oh, because it's hitting the table. Like, what was that? Alright, so there's the first two. And now I'm going to go over to the other side and do the same thing, skipping the center. So yeah, I'm using this one. This wasn't sure if it was extra or not. So we're ruffling again into the pipe cleaners that I forgot to prepare. Tight and low 2 to 3 times. I would definitely twist it twice if you're putting buttons or embellishments on here, because they'll hold. You'll have to twist them again too, and it's just not going to come off. This one's a little long on one side, so I'm going to even it out. Oh my gosh, chair. I didn't separate those out. Just remember. You could even buy those styrofoam balls to put on the ends as well. That's another thing you could do to add an embellishment to it. Okay, so this is going to match this one. So we're going to bring these two up. Notice I'm still not holding the very end. I'm up a few inches so that I don't damage it. Don't cause more fray. I mean, it's easy to fix the fray. You're just going to trim the ribbon, but every time you trim the ribbon, it makes it shorter, a shorter tail. So you don't really want to do that. And I'm not curling it excessively because it's so thick mostly. Make sure that's good. You notice I'm still moving the wreath to the position I need it in instead of reaching out and around, and I'm just making sure that it's not wrinkly. So now this is next. A lot of times I will make one like this because I'm planning out the wreath and I want to make sure that the patterns and stuff look right together. And sometimes it's an extra bundle, but not this time. If I remember correctly, I was at the bottom of my supplies of Mardi Gras product. Ribbon, at least. I don't think I have a sign anymore either. I think this will be... I might have one more. Oh, that's right. I have one more kit on the page. It's not the same as this one, but it is a Mardi Gras kit on the Etsy page. 2, 3. Just need a little trim too. Did I uncurl those? Nope. I remember after. You could wait and curl these at the end, all of them at once. But again, I find that if I do it all at the same time, I don't forget. I'm going to go over here. This is something else that I do. I lift up and I position. These are chunky ribbon. They feel very, very nice. This is pretty because it's so shiny with the stripes. Okay. Come back out a little bit more with my squeaky chair. Show you where we're at so far. So now we're down to the last two. bundles. I'm going to take and put that vertical, put the ribbon in horizontal, using where I folded the ribbon as my center. 2, 3 low. Did I forget again? See? Now I'm going to place my ribbon in the position I want. I'm separating them out. You can see that I don't like to do the same thing constantly. I keep changing it up. Gives you more options as part of the learning process too. And I'll get up in a minute and look at it once it's all done to make sure everything's good and not cockeyed. See, that time I did the ribbon before I curled. Those are the same size. So I'm going to curl them. Pull it out a little. Curl. The opposite way towards me. Pull it out a little. You still see a little of the mesh peeking out everywhere. But as my business coach likes to say, the mesh is the bra of your wreath. It is the solid foundation. Keeps it lifted. Okay, so we're going to use this again. Not again. But I'm going to use it now. It's all ruffly. I'm going to put it in there. Tight and load 2 to 3 times. Let's see how they're both the same. Okay. Get that done. I'm swirling already. Get on there. Pull it out a little so you can see the curls in the pipe cleaner. Okay. And since these are the stripe in the center, this is going to be the Harlequin diamonds. Okay. This down here. This down here, and this in the middle. You can handle the ribbon pretty roughly, not too roughly, but you can get aggressive with it a little bit to get it to cooperate. So now I'm going to stand up and take a look at it. Sure everything looks good on there, and then I'm going to go down to the bottom layer, lifting the mesh on the top layer out of the way, because if you just try to pull the ribbon, it's going to snag and all the things. And then you'll end up having to trim your ribbon. Makes it shorter and even harder to see. You can bump up the length of the ribbon to 13 or 14 inch lengths. I find 14 to be definitely too much. There are the other ones. I'm like, why is it so bare there? Just pulling these all out. I'm grabbing it from the sides, not the ends. Where is this one? There it is. I'm just not seeing it. Curling it under. I can fluff all day. It's a bad habit, I suppose. Alright, I think that's all good. Making sure the tips are not curling forward. Just Run your fingers over the ribbon. Try not to get it caught on your clothes. All right. Bring it back. And there you have it. Oh, great. There we go. Well, I thank you for joining me today while I made this beautiful Mardi Gras wreath in the Storm Door style. Again, like I said in the beginning, you can put it anywhere, but it is designed to be under 4 inches deep so that you can put it behind a screen door without crushing it. I hope you enjoyed everything I showed you today. If you like what you see, you can subscribe to the channel. It's Wreaths by Marguerite, as you already probably know. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram as Wreaths by Marguerite, all the platforms. I don't do TikTok though. And if you want to see this and any of my other products, you just need to go over to my Etsy shop, which is www.etsy.com/shop/Wreaths by Marguerite. And I'll have that information in my description section under the YouTube video you see to see this. I thank you for your time. I know that you could be doing anything with your time, but you're spending it with me today, and that means a lot. Like and follow in all the places, ask questions. I would love to answer any questions you have and share with your friends. So everybody have a great rest of your winter. Have fun if you do the Mardi Gras thing. Should be lots of excitement with that. And we'll see you for the next video. Everyone have a great day. Bye. There it is again.